Hey there, South Haven friends and family. Thank you for joining us again for one of our summer premieres, as we have been doing the hot shots all summer long, introducing you to some of our staff. But we've also been wanting to report on some of our different mission trips that we've been taking. You've already heard from our team that went to Guatemala, and tonight we have our team Moldova that just got back earlier in July from a week-long trip there in Moldova. As most of you know, here at South Haven, we've been going to Moldova for a couple of years now. This was our third trip from our church to Moldova. We've been working with a mother church and a couple of church plants around that mother church right along the Romanian-Moldovan border in a predominantly unreached area. There's just a lot of villages that have no church presence or just a very small presence. The evangelical and Baptist work is very small in that region. It is a predominantly Orthodox background. And as I've said before sometimes at South Haven, that if you were to Google or look on Wikipedia about Moldova, you would see that it says 97% of that country is Christian. So you kind of are left with a question, why are we going there? Of all the places in the world that need the gospel, why are we going to a place that's 97% Christian? Well, that's somewhat of a misnomer, because 99% of that 97% are from the Moldovan Orthodox, Romanian Orthodox Church, where Jesus is predominantly just a picture, not really a person. It's a very ritualistic, very mystical faith, or not even a faith at all, where Jesus really is just an image that people look to, but they really have no kind of personal relationships. We've been going to share the gospel and to point people to Jesus. So this year we had 7 of us that went. A few of us have been before. Myra Pacina has been before, as well as myself, Mallory Blackford. This was her second trip, and then Mike Aldrich, also his second trip. And then we had a couple of newbies. Brandy Melvin, our children's minister. This was her first trip there. Donna Aldrich with Mike, and then I was pleased to have my wife Paula joining me for not just her first trip to Moldova, but her first international mission trip, and that was extra special to get to do that together. So I'm just going to have them all kind of share some of the things that we did this year at this on this trip. One of the main features of the trip was a women's conference, and we wanted to just pour into the ladies there in that region. So I'm going to kind of kick it to Myra. Myra, how did that vision for a women's conference really come about? What was kind of the genesis of the conference?
Last year, as we were getting ready to leave, a lady came up to us and she said, "You guys should do something for the women next year." And I looked around at these ladies who, their culture, they don't really express joy. And I looked around and I said, "We can do a joy conference." And my friend had recently wrote a book. It's very practical, and we had it translated into Romanian and Russian, and we were able to give each lady a book and some tools that they can use to express joy and to grow it.
Awesome. And I know that you ladies all kind of shared in leading that. There were different teaching times on just that whole idea of joy. There were a number of crafts and activities that went along with that. I'm going to kind of jump over to Mallory. Mallory, this was your second trip. What were some of maybe the highlights of not just the Joy Conference, but of the trip overall?
Well, one of the fun highlights, I would say, that was really fun to see was in Bumbata. We were helping Carolina, which is Pastor Tudor's daughter. We were helping her with her VBS, and I just immediately noticed her peace and her organizational component that she brought to that VBS. I don't know if after watching us, she thought, "Oh, the Americans, they like when we do it like this, so I guess I'll plan it this way." Or if she really learned something from the model that we brought last year. But that was really fun. And I know that's only a piece because I was there last year and then this year. But just seeing her piece and her organization that she brought to that, it gave her a lot of structure to that VBS. And it was just really fun to watch her grow administratively in that and just observe that in her. And so that was fun. That was one of the first things I observed about VBS, was how she was able to structure things in a way that was just effective, if you will. And I feel like the kids just had a greater benefit from that. And so I don't know that was a direct reflection of our trip last year. But I do like to think that last year we were able to not only help conduct that VBS, but also just model that for her and kind of equip her in that way without feeling like what was previously being done was not up to par, or, without having to have a conversation, without like trying to teach, just being able to model that naturally. So that was one of the fun highlights that I personally saw.
Something that you all may not even be aware of yet. I mentioned yesterday in church that I got a lot of videos and reports from our pastor connections there, Pastor Tudor, about some of the work going on in Poyana, a village where there's a church that was basically just falling apart down to two families left. They went and did a VBS this past week, and I need to forward all of that on to you. I just got it Saturday night, but in those videos you see some of the kids that were helping, some of the young people that were helping us at Bumata and in Ungan, who were helping lead that VBS. And so it's cool to kind of see that leadership development being passed down a little bit across the board.
Because you do hope that it transfers, like if equip the saints for the work of the ministry. So you do hope that what you go and what you model transfers for people who can do it throughout the year and not just rely on you to be there that 1 week.
Absolutely. Brandy, I'm going to look down a little further to you. This was your first trip, not your first international trip, but your first trip to Moldova with us. And so there's always a lot of new things that you're seeing and experiencing, adjusting to that culture. But just takeaways or impressions that you had from the trip, meaningful things that you experienced.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably all could agree. The people are just beautiful. I mean, just sweet, generous, so hospitable. Their youth, talking about their youth doing stuff, I mean, just so polite and wanting to help. And you just can't help but just fall in love with them. They were just amazing. They're just amazing, amazing people. And man, it's that kind of stuff you don't forget. Yeah,
absolutely.
So.
You mentioned the youth, and one of the things that we've seen at these churches is how their young people, their teenagers, some of their collegiate students, the college age students, just being heavily involved in some of these ministries and outreaches, and not that ours aren't. We have great kids here at South Haven and in our and the work that we do here locally, but and it may be in part that there's not a lot of other things for them in that area, but they were heavily engaged in the ministry and mission.
Translating, and I mean,
they did it all.
They did. Yeah. They really did.
They did do it all. I'm just going to keep going down the line. Donna, this was your first trip, and Mike had experienced it last year. But what were some of just your initial impressions or highlight experiences for you in all this?
Well, like Brandy said, the people were just fantastic. They just were so sweet and wanted to please. They wanted us to be happy and be comfortable and be able to do our work as efficiently as possible. And I just fell in love with them because they were just so sweet and kind and all of that. I think probably one of the funniest things I thought happened was we had planned to do a game with these ladies that were very stoic the first night. And we're looking out at the audience thinking, I'm not sure how well that's going to fly when we get to play the game. And so we talked about it and we decided we're going to do it. Well, it ended up being the third night before we could get to it. And by that time, they had loosened up enough and were smiling and laughing. And I thought, okay, we can do this game. So we played Keepy Uppy, which is a version of Keep the Balloon Up in the Air. And just to see these ladies just go crazy about these balloons floating down from above. we were able to put them up on the balcony and put them over the top and just see them go after them. And just it was so much fun because that was the most relaxed we'd seen them, and laughing and being joyful, which was the whole purpose of our trip. But I just thought that was a fun experience.
That felt like a win for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it was a joy conference. Right. That was what we were trying to teach and instill. And as you mentioned, typically very stoic. Just the Eastern European culture tends to be very stoic. And it's not that it is a joyless society, but their way of expressing that culturally is just very different than what we express. You don't always see a lot of smiles. You have to work to get those. But it was cool. Mike and I were not there that night of that game, but seeing the pictures afterward of just all these ladies going after little yellow balloons.
They came up to us at the end of the conference and just said, thank you for giving us permission to be joyful and to express that joy. Yeah. That was so touching.
I think that would almost be a good lesson for a lot of Baptists here in
Yes.
America that,
Yeah.
it's okay to be joyful.
Right.
So
We can get some balloons. We can make it happen.
We can do
if that's what it takes. Maybe we just need some balloons in the
Balloons.
service and all. Mike, this was a repeat trip for you. You went last year, and we did some of the same things that we were doing last year, but some new elements. But what made you want to go back, and what maybe were some highlights and takeaways for this trip?
Well, this group really causes me to want to go because I enjoy everybody.
Stop.
Even Mallory.
There's a hug.
There's a hug.
I question the Maori one. I'll live with that. That's kind of funny because Leo, when we landed, met us, and he said, "What brought you back?" And I said, "I fell in love with you guys."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it really is the reason I would go back again. Some of the relationships that I was able to deepen. I got to spend a lot of time with Artie
Yeah.
and talking to him, and I know it's hard to believe, but I was able to encourage him. And he said, "You have the gift of encouragement." And I kind of, who are we talking about? We're not talking about me. But I got to encourage him. And David, got to build a fan. I've always been kind of drawn to him, comfortable with him, but I was able to build a wonderful relationship. There's some things that Donna and I could do for his family that because we heard some needs. And, of course, Leo, he gave me a holy kiss. I mean, hugs are bad enough, but holy kiss kind of throws you sideways.
It was unforeseen. Unforeseen, for
Unforeseen
sure.
holy kiss.
Just like
kind
the
of
song.
funny. Of course, Myra and Maori kind of caused a lot of the hugging. They put up.
Or maybe it was just your personality.
Maybe it is. Two instances that really led. You talk about youth at the youth ride when you and I were out there. I got to sit with all the youth and kid around with them and play with them. Felt like I was back home with the youth here because you're right, we got wonderful youth too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fantastic. So I really enjoyed that. And then I think it was when we had the last evening meal or breakfast or whatever it is, the ladies that had been very serious. Of course, they all had to line up and get a hug. And they're all laughing. And I remember the first trip, there was a distance.
Yes.
There was really a distance. This time they were smiling and they were
Yeah.
giving hugs. And again, I enjoyed all that. I really did.
For those of you that don't know Mike well, Mike's been one of our elders here, served for many years as a deacon, and Mike sometimes has this vibe. He has this reputation of being maybe a little standoffish, a little stoic himself. That all goes away in Moldova. He is the hug king of Eastern Europe.
Life is a party.
And we have pictures to prove it too. So.
You do.
Paula, my bride, we got to take a international trip, and I think you've gotten the bug now. You might go with me on more of these, but just kind of your impression. You've heard me for 25 years come home and talk about trips and people and all. What was your experience on this first one?
Not knowing 100% what to expect, but trusting my sweet friend Myra, who told me, "This is a Paula mission trip. You can do this." And the Lord affirmed that encouragement to go. And I was at a point where I couldn't say no. The Lord wouldn't leave me alone about it. So,
And I was right.
you were right.
Okay, just wanted to get that on record.
What about
The
the
Lord,
trusting
but
part?
no.
I think, just going in and immediately being welcomed by the people just made the whole experience amazing. I don't know there's not a word to really describe what I felt while I was there and some of the grieving that I felt since I've been home because I missed them. And I think the highlight for me was being able to come alongside a pastor's wife who is struggling and just really hear her heart and, pray with her and visit with her and let her know she's not alone in this. And then hearing from a retired pastor's wife, her experience of joy. Those relationships just happened really quickly, and the connection was made so quickly that, yes, I'd go back tomorrow if I could. And I never in a million years thought I would ever say that. But I'd eat boiled chicken and potatoes every day for another week if it meant getting to be with them again.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you all are hearing across the board with this team is just relationships, and that's what church is all about. That's why do we keep coming back to South Haven? It's relationships. We connect with people. We build friendships. We become family to one another, and that I think is what all of us have experienced on a trip like this, is just connecting with the people. You hear Mike mentioning just the names. Leo, one of the missionaries that has been a driver and a translator for us. Artyom, who's been one of our translators, and David, one of the new young pastors that's pastoring a new church plant in that area. These people become our family. They become our friends, and you engage in their life for 7 to 10 days. But it's like like many relationships in the States. When we go back, it's just like you're picking up right where you left off, and getting to have that impact. Sometimes it feels like we're doing something very small, but it's huge for them. Kind of speak to that, Myra. Sometimes it feels like when we go, are we really doing anything meaningful, and how that impacts them?
Well, just like the small little crafts that we did with the ladies. We painted rocks so that they could hide to share joy. And that might be a craft that you would do here with kids or something. And you might do it with ladies, but these ladies pounced on that and had so much fun and asking for pictures, holding up the rocks. And some of them even painted rocks and gave them to us to take back home. So that was precious, just seeing how open they were to just doing little things like that we might see it as something really small, but to them it made a big impact. So
yeah, and I think it's humbling to an extent, because I think we geared up and we really prepared to be task oriented. A lot of people really, when they sign up for a mission trip, or they think about going on a mission trip, they consider it, they think about all the work that will be done, and all the tasks that are before you. But one of the humbling pieces of this trip, I think for the whole group, honestly, is just how much the task wasn't necessarily the most important thing for this trip. And it was humbling to see how we thought we were going to go work and help. And then the ministry of presence just spoke louder than we could ever imagine. And it was really humbling to see where we could step into their emotional and relational needs and just encourage them. Because even in VBS, there weren't a ton of tasks for us to physically help with. We helped with games and crafts. But outside of that, there wasn't a ton of tasks to help with. But my gosh, just spending time with Carolina in those down moments, and then spending time with those kiddos and playing volleyball with those kiddos, just the ministry of presence and us being there to encourage them. And the kiddos love to say, I love you, because that's the phrase in English that they know. And so you're I love you all the time. And I think even in the women's conference, if we had not done one craft, but if we had just lined up and hugged all of those women every single night, emotionally, that would have been sufficient. And I think that's humbling, but that's really something that made this trip really special.
I think that, you kind of spoke to that. As we were coming back from the trip, we kind of did just some impromptu debriefs and all. And I think, let's just be honest, all of us were a little frustrated at moments because, one, we know anytime you go on an international trip, things are not always going to go according to plan. Myra and I have traveled all over the world, and
thou shalt be flexible.
Flexibility is the name of the game.
My middle name.
That's right. Mike is Mr. Flexibility and Mr. Hug.
Okay.
And so you go into it knowing you've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to pivot and shift. But at the same time, we're investing a lot to go. We're investing a lot as a church. We're investing a lot individually. It's not cheap to go on some of these international trips, and so you want to be used. You want to feel like your time and your investment is worthwhile. And so sometimes when there was some downtime, it got a little frustrating. But I think in those moments, sometimes
That's where God worked.
That's where God worked, whether we acknowledge that in the moment or
Yeah.
not. It comes back to those relationships are always going to be more important than the tasks sometimes. I think that's a good word even sometimes
That's right.
as staff, as
Yes.
pastors, that sometimes we get so focused on the tasks that have to be done, and we just need to pause sometimes and love on the people and connect in those
Well, and wasn't
relationships.
it was towards the end that someone said to us that Americans being there gives credibility to their
To the
church
church.
and to their ministry.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we've learned just working with the people there, getting to know this culture, Baptists are viewed in that culture as a cult. We're on the same par as Jehovah's Witnesses. And so the Baptists there are often persecuted. They're looked down upon. They're denigrated in their culture and society. And as some of the pastors said, just Americans showing up and giving validity to what those churches are doing kind of makes the community say, there may be something to these people and what they believe, because why else would Americans be coming to hang out with them?
And our last night at the ladies' event, 2 new people came, and they expressed that. They said, we thought you guys were a cult, and we just wanted to know what was going on. So they showed up, and they were given Bibles in their language, they were given resources, they were invited to women's Bible studies and things like that. So
well, and the
just the
day
fact
that
that
they
we were
were
showing
the
up.
day that they were leaving, one of the pastors of the church said he had already followed up with those ladies,
Right.
and they're asking about what steps do
What
they
do I
need to
need to
take
do? Right.
toward baptism, toward church membership. So that's where that impact
Right.
ultimately comes in. What would you all say to, we've made a commitment to these churches and are supporting them. We're supporting them as part of our South Haven missions budget. We're supporting the work that's going on there through our Barnes into Blessing initiative that you all passed this last year as we were blessing them. For future teams that go, we'll probably send another team this next summer. What would you say to encourage someone that's hearing this, has maybe thought about going, not sure if it was for them? What would you say to encourage someone to go? Mike, Donna, how would you encourage someone to go on
How did I
this
encourage
kind of? Yeah, you got her.
Well, start there, maybe.
Like I told you the first time I decided to go, get out of your comfort level, and you're going to experience God. We were all talking about this, and when I read Scripture now and I see Paul talk about how he yearns to see the people of Ephesus, or he yearns to see the people, I go, man, I understand that now. I yearn to see the people of Moldova. I hope that I can go again next year. I'm getting old, as you guys pointed out many times.
Somebody's got to carry our luggage up the stairs.
But I would encourage people, get out of your comfort, because you're going to experience what God how He can really touch your heart.
Awesome.
I would say that, kind of like Paula, I was like, oh, he's just talking. I don't know. I'm not sure this is really what I want to do. But God pressed it on my heart that it's what I needed to do. And he was so right.
It's interesting how often mission trips, and it goes kind of back to what Mallory was talking about with the task. Sometimes we go thinking this mission trip is for them. I'm going there to help them. They need me, and I'm really the one that's going to get something out of this.
Yeah.
So, Brandy, what would you say to encourage somebody to go on that next one?
I think that when you think of, how we live in our own little world, in our own little bubble, I think a lot of times we tend to make God very small when we do that. And the one thing about going to, someplace that's going to take you out of your comfort zone, going to a whole other country, all of that. I mean, hearing these lovely people sing same songs we sing here in their language, all at the same time, it expands God for
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden you realize God is so much bigger than Springfield, Missouri, than the U.S. You know, I'm like, he's so big and so mighty, and you see it right there among a whole nother group of people, you know, and I think that it just changing how you maybe daily view God to being so much bigger, it's powerful for your spiritual walk, you know. So it's important. People should go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mal, you've been a couple of times. How would you just encourage someone to step up and take that?
I honestly feel like the Moldova trips are worth fighting for. There's elements to every trip. I say every, I've been twice. But there are elements to both trips that were different from trip to trip. And what I'm learning and what God is showing me is that the trips are worth fighting for because as a church with Barnes Blessings, like we've decided to pour into these people. We've decided to support them. And when you hug little girls whose dad can't afford toothpaste, you know, like it really like knits your heart to understanding what we're doing as a church, like what South Haven truly is doing and the gravity of what we're providing and the ministry that is done. Mike, we were talking briefly like about the van that we bought a van and we went back and we were able to see the ministry that is being done because of what South Haven is providing. So I think the trip is worth fighting for. I understand it's expensive, but I think just investing emotionally in the people that we're already financially investing in, go hug the people we're supporting. Go meet them, go get to know them. Because it does really put a face to what we're deciding to do as a church. It puts a face to what we're voting for. It puts a face to all the ministry that can be done. Ministry takes resources, and if we're going to share ours with them, go meet the people and just go see what we're doing. Because like Andre's doing great, and the van, yeah, like it needs a couple things, but like I mean,
maybe some tires and wheels.
Yeah, but he's doing more with that than he was ever going to do with the car. And that's just a small thing that we've been able to do in 1 year's time, something that we've noticed. So just, it's worth fighting for, just to go hug the people that we're helping.
As Mal was mentioning, each of these villages that we're working in, and there's a mother church in the main city, but there are villages all around that where they're planting churches. And for this women's conference, they were bringing in women from each of those villages in vans and in cars. And most of these places are 20, 30 miles away from the mother church, and yet people were... Moldova's the poorest country in all of Eastern Europe, and all of Europe, and yet they're using what resources they have to just invest in and pour into people. Babe, what would you who were maybe leery of going, now that you've been, how would you encourage someone else that is nervous about traveling to a far-off country and nervous about eating things that they've never eaten before? How would you encourage someone to go on maybe the next trip?
Well, I think years ago Nike said it best: just do it. There's nothing, if you're afraid to eat chicken and potatoes, you might struggle, but I mean, there's always something.
There's a pizza place across the street.
There's a pizza place across the street that you can
Corn on a pizza.
And they put corn on their pizza.
With corn!
They love their sweets.
The food and it, for me, I didn't even take protein bars. I didn't take anything with me. I just went, and there was nothing I couldn't eat. And I had fun trying some things that I don't know that I will ever eat again.
And we had fun watching you try something.
Yeah, I just come with us. And allow the Lord to really just open your eyes to, I mean, a very, very amazing people group.
Myra, you and I have been friends since 1992. We've traveled the world together, been on all sorts of kind of missions and serving in different places. why should someone go to Moldova in 2027?
I think, just like you said, loving on the people, getting to know the people. But I loved what Brandy said about making God so much bigger. Once you go on an international mission trip and you get to know people, when you start reading your Bible and you see the word nations, it's different.
It's no longer just,
no longer just
an idea.
An idea.
It's a face.
It's people.
Yeah.
It's people that you've hugged. It's people that you've sat down and eaten with. It's people that you've laughed with and things like that.
I think that's kind of what Mike was saying. You just read your Bible differently.
Yeah.
You read it with those faces
Yeah.
in mind as you're reading those stories. You know, we've been going for 3 years. A lot of this has just been relationship building. We are investing in, ultimately, church leaders. We're investing in pastors. We're investing in church planters. We're investing in the next generation of helping them. One of the challenges in Moldova is because Moldova is such an impoverished nation, they've lost about 30% of their populace over the last 20 years to the West. If someone gets an education, someone has leadership skills, there's a lot of temptations to pull them out of that country. The brain drain that you've heard of in so many communities, many of them go to the West or they come to America, and that's happened all throughout Moldova. And so we're trying to pour into that next generation and support them so that they can stay and do the important work that is so desperately needing to be done. And it's been cool. We get weekly reports of work going on there through the people we're investing in, and lives being changed, kids getting saved at some of these kids camps, or what we would call a VBS. One night, Sunday night, Mike and I got to see an older man, at the end of the service, just come and repent of his sins and begin a new journey with Jesus. That didn't happen because Mike and I were there. That happened because the Lord was working. But we got to be a part of that, and we have a hand in that, and God's using us. So, again, South Haven, thank you for the investment that you're making in the nations. Thank you for so many ways that we as a church support this work. As a church, we give 13-14% of our total budget away to missions. We support the cooperative program of Southern Baptist. We are some of the top givers to Lottie Moon and Annie Armstrong missions offerings in our state. Thank you for just that financial investment that you made. Thank you for investing in Barns into Blessings that enables us to do even more and to just extend God's work there even more. It's great that we give. It's important to go. Thank you for praying for teams that are going and for the people that remain doing the work there. I just want to encourage all of you to find your peace in this work. Maybe you'll go on a trip in 2027 or 2028. Maybe God will use you to support someone that wants to go but is struggling to find the resources to do it. Maybe you just come alongside and pray for someone and give them the strength and encouragement to do that. There's so many ways to be involved in it. God wants to reach the nations, and He's doing it in Moldova. So, South Haven, thank you so much for your investment in the nations, your investment in the kingdoms, your investment in Moldova. And team, it was a blast getting to go. It's been great to get together again and just talk about it, and hope to see you all next time on the mission field with us. God bless.